Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. It's time now for Talking Movies with Professor O, and Professor O is with us from his study in Oklahoma. I'm here in my study from Texas, and we hope that all of you are ready to talk about Galaxy Quest. This is a most unusual movie, and I think that before we get too started on this, I want to admit that I have difficulty going between the names of the actors, the names of the actors playing actors, and then the names of the actors playing actors' characters' names. And
Right.
so I have some a cheat sheet here so I can keep all that straight of who we're talking about. But wasn't it a wonderful job that all of these people did before we even get into the story, before we even get into how they did things? I mean, it's almost perfect casting for this, wouldn't you think?
The act. Everybody talks about that. The director in the behind the scenes stuff. They talked about the perfect casting. Where are you going to find um Alan Rickman, uh,
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub? How would you even think of putting Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver? That is, you just can't. It's hard to connect these people together.
Yeah, it
They
is.
represent such different looks, different types of people, what they bring to the part, and yet they just work. The
Yeah, and
casting.
what's interesting about this is that Harold Ramis wanted neither of them. He did not want Sigourney Weaver because she had been in science fiction. Harold Ramis was supposed to direct this,
Right,
and he
right,
ended up leaving because he wouldn't work with Tim Allen. I don't
right.
know what his problem with Tim Allen was, but he didn't want to work with Tim Allen, and so he left. And that's when they brought in this less experienced director, which they kind of wanted at the beginning, but they were afraid the studio wouldn't like him because he hadn't had a whole lot of work behind him. And Ramis wanted Alec Baldwin in the lead,
Ah,
which I think is a bad idea.
right,
Steve Martin, which might have worked, and Kevin Kline.
right.
And
That's right.
I could see kind of Kevin Kline in it. I don't know if it would work as well. I could see, Steve Martin at that time was still known pretty much for comedy, but he obviously could do more dramatic stuff. So I could see him in it. So, but I think Tim Allen worked out because you could believe that he was that egomaniac that he was playing.
Right. And I think one of the things that was working a little bit against Tim Allen was, well, for one reason that you mentioned Harold Ramis, I think I'm trying to remember that he felt that when he was working with a comic actor that he had messed up as a director in a previous film. So he thought, I don't want to work with a comedian, with
Uh,
a comic actor. And so that kind of there were so that was a strike against Tim Allen.
yeah.
But then Tim Allen, even after they changed directors, I think he had a little bit of a hard time because they were saying, you're too much of a science fiction fan, too much of a fan. And he said,
Yeah.
no, I know this part. This is me. It's got to be a person like
That's
this.
part of the problem that Ramis had with him was Ramis wanted to do something like Spaceballs.
Right.
And I think that might have been a mistake because if you did an airplane slash Spaceballs type of thing on this, it would not have worked.
Oh,
But what they started out was they wanted to do a very dark parody, kind of a dark comedy, and that was a little too intense, and they ended up cutting it back. But certainly, because they started it that way, I think it gives more gravitas to it when they scale it back to be more of a comedy.
that's a great point. Yeah, it is. It just can't be something like Spaceballs. It is us out there. It's there's pathos, humanity. The fall of your ego is all out there, and that's why it's so relatable. It just all the way to the old maxim of, if you're in a comedy, you cannot laugh at yourself. You can't
Yes.
laugh at the jokes. You got to play it straight. And they got it all spot on right. And that's what makes it so funny. Not only is it
Yes.
relatable, but just unbelievably funny. These are real people. This is us out there, and it hurts sometimes, but it also feels so much better when they actually do something to get it right.
Well, you have to think that they were playing with dynamite because they used the aliens in this to represent convention fans, and you and I are in that group, and so
Oh,
we were the most likely to be offended by this if they didn't do it right.
yeah, they did it just right. Tim Allen, he said, no, it was in the behind the scenes stuff. They interviewed Nicholas Meyer,
Uh-huh.
director of Star Trek II, Star Trek VI. I forgot he'd written in Star Trek IV, helped to write that. So
Yes.
Nicholas Meyer, the second generation of Star Trek after
Yeah.
Roddenberry, just and he said this is a film where it you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It is a film where the fans you can make fun of them in a sense. It's a parody of them, but yet it loves them. It pays an homage to the fans. And it recognizes the fans. And as a fan, you're able to laugh at yourself some, but also see the good out there and that's done. And I just thought that was, to your point, just perfectly phrased by Nicholas Meyer.
Yeah. And while we're there, I'd also like to say something about some of the other casting choices. First of
Yeah.
all, Alan Rickman is,
Oh,
they're not just parodying the original series, but all of sci-fi in a certain respect, and a lot of Star Trek. And I could
yes.
see Alan Rickman as being Patrick Stewart, who
Wow.
prides his Shakespearean acting and is a little bit embarrassed to be in science fiction. And
Right.
in fact, Alan Rickman himself was a little iffy about science fiction, generally speaking. Interestingly, he had two movies that year where he played a non-human person. In this one, as of course Dr. Lazarus, and in Dogma, where he played the voice of God.
I had forgotten about Dogma. That
Same
he
year.
was perfect at that as the
Yes.
voice of, and right, and we'll yeah, I like the way we're approaching this through the casting. I think there's so much that brings to it, and again, Alan Rickman, there you are. You've played Richard the Third. You've you and you were that actor, and they get so many nuances right. They've been this is convention number 18, but they've been to
Yeah.
even more than that. And he starts to go into his routine. I was an actor, and then you cut to the kid, yeah, and you can just everybody goes, oh God, no, he's doing it again. This is
Yeah.
gonna, and he's doing it again because Tim Allen is late, an hour and a half late. The captain's late. Peter Taggart is late,
Yes.
and so but then you think of yourself, I am above this, and Rickman in the behind the scenes stuff talked about this. He talked about the empathy he has with other actors. You feel like you're above this, but then, and Tim Allen feels like he's really above this, but then you make that trip to the bathroom and you realize you better be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
And these people aren't considering you friends anymore. You think they're friends. But yeah, Rickman,
And
he's,
that bathroom scene actually happened to William Shatner.
oh, is
And
that that's right?
that's when he found out that the rest of the cast hated him. I don't think he really knew all their names, but he didn't realize that there was bad blood between them.
Bad blood, but and this movie is a microcosm of Shatner's journey.
Yes.
Yeah, fall on your, sink. It's funny. I was visiting with somebody yesterday talking about the movie, and he didn't realize the importance of Shatner's line of how the fans felt betrayed when he said "Get a Life" on
Yeah.
SNL on Saturday Night Live, and I had to point out. I said, "No, that was a big break in the fandom there. That was not that was
Yeah.
not funny at all. There's other funny sketches on SNL that William Shatner's done. That one is not one.
I didn't
And
really care for the one where the Enterprise was a restaurant and he was the head of the salad bar or something.
yeah,
I just they could have done without that.
yeah, yeah.
Let's move on. Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub. Oh,
Tony Shalhoub, there's two things about him that are of note here. One is that he plays Fred Kwan, the actor, who plays another Asian character.
Ensign.
Technical Sergeant Chen.
Yes.
Now, this, first of all, is the idea that in Star Trek they always use the wrong ethnicities for everything.
Interesting point. Interesting.
I mean,
point.
they made Sulu Japanese, but just about everybody else, Hispanics were played by Italians, Indians were played by Latinos. I mean, they didn't really care as long as it was some kind of minority that would fit for everybody. And so
Right.
they make Tony Shalhoub, who's Lebanese, into an Asian character.
Into an Asian.
So
That's a good point. Yeah.
secondly, and this is something that was cut out really of the picture, so it would be more of a family film. And that was a studio thing. The director was still kind of upset that all of the realistic language was taken out in some of the scenes and dubbed over so that it would be a PG movie rather than a PG-13. And this was. Yeah. Well, yeah, they cut it down from R first, and then they had to cut it down from PG-13 because this was DreamWorks, which at that time was owned by Disney, and they wanted a family picture to go against Stuart Little, which was Michael J. Fox as a mouse that drives a car. I don't know what that film was about. I never saw it, but it seemed, and that's what they were trying to compete with, to make a family film like Stuart Little out of this, which. All right, fine. But how it relates to Tony Shalhoub was he was high all the time during the film. Not himself, but his character was high, and that explains why he seemed to not react to everything that was going on.
Oh,
because he was stoned.
That's one of so many of the characters are. You can see where they're a blending of characters. Like you can see the Nichelle Nichols part, which is one definitely sense of cultural diversity that Star Trek did get right. Nichelle Nichols,
they did,
and so the part of Nichelle Nichols, on the other hand, is the part where she was frustrated, hailing frequencies open. In this case, they make Sigourney Weaver just copy the computer all the time,
right?
And so they were working to get that right. But the funny thing is, Shalhoub, you're thinking, if you kind of sit back and go, who is this? And it's Sulu, and then the strangest Scotty you ever see. He's got to kind of be Scotty, but geez, it's not Scotty for sure.
I love when they go down to the planet's surface and they open up, and of course, Guy or crewman number 6 is panicking because he just opens the hatch onto the shuttle. And he says, "How do we know the atmosphere is not poisonous?" And Shalhoub says, "Smells okay to me."
and Guy is that's that is incredible. Different. That's one thing about good writing is you're giving a situation, and a lot of times when you're especially early on writing, you're given a stimulus, and different characters have got to react differently to that same stimulus. And Guy was awesome. He keeps that up in that same scene further on. It's so good. He's the only one that knows that the little babies are going to be horrible. He's the only one that knows that the little baby aliens, they're going to have big teeth. And then he has all the best lines in that. He said, "Well, what happened to the miners? All these little cute things. You think they're the miners?
Yeah.
What happened to the real miners?" And then that sets your mind thinking, what did happen to the miners? And then there's the mix-up of miner versus miner, like a baby versus minor versus a minor. and then he keeps on going and Ripley who the
what's her actual name?
It's in the back of my mind. What is it?
I don't even remember now.
Yeah,
I have some stuff. I have some stuff written down. It's
double layers.
Yeah, she's Gwen DeMarco as the actor, and she's Tawny something as the character.
And Sigourney Weaver is her name. And so when she's when she's just went, oh, look at the cute babies. And then guy even says, don't you even watch the show? Because he knew in the writing of the show that these little baby aliens couldn't be cute.
Yeah.
His character is fantastic. But oh, Tony Shalhoub is so good. It just works. And being family friendly, I think they allude to is he high? I think at one point they kind of somebody looks at him and says, are you high or a coded word for that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was more direct, I think, in the previous cut. However, we move over to Sigourney Weaver, and
Yes.
as she's someone who, of course, is well. Let's first start with Sigourney Weaver. She has done dramatic acting in Alien, in all the Alien films,
Right.
and in Ghostbusters. She's in a comedy, but she is a straight person in that. In
Right.
this is the first time we ever really see her do real comedy, and it's amazing how good she is at it.
Oh,
And I think also it's kind of because you don't expect that kind of character to do comedy that it works.
right.
And
Right.
and also they say that she was quite the joker between shots. She had, of course, a blonde wig on, which she kept after the picture was done, and
Yeah.
a breastplate, and so which she would take off between shots and throw it at people.
She loved playing that part. She
Yeah,
she she stayed in character one day after with the blonde wig, and went just walking downtown and just loved the reaction that she would get. But yeah, one of there's a deleted scene with one of her where she's playing comedy was just fantastic. Um, it's when they're it's when they've got to basically stop the core from blowing up. They've got to go through all those corridors, all that bad writing to get to even over a fire pit to get to the room. I love the fire pit
yeah,
to get to the room where they got to punch the button to stop the core from melting down.
right.
In the deleted scene, two of the aliens are threatening them. They follow them to that room. Whereas in the movie, they're not there at all. But in the deleted scene, they follow them, and so and one of them, the alien starts. One of the bad aliens starts to say, "Yes, she's an animal, but she's cute." And the other one, "You can't even be thinking that she's an animal." And so she decides, "Come on, guys, come on over, get up, let's just come and enjoy." And so Tim Allen's just looking at her like, yeah, they're like, "What are you doing?" But she's got to buy him
Right.
time. And so as they approach the door, she punches the button and squishes them in the door, in the heavy door that separates that room. And it just plays as great comedy. It's
It does.
she was, and one thing you mentioned about the rating, when they're coming up to that scene and they're talking to the kid, the prototypical awesome Star Trek fan
Right.
that talking to the kid, and
Who can
he's
help him after
guiding
he
him.
takes out the garbage?
Exactly. It's like guiding him through, and so when she first sees what they've got to walk through, and this is just bad writing. And she says, "Well, screw that" in the movie, but they dubbed that in. She didn't say, "Well, screw that." She
No,
said,
you can
"F
still
that."
hear the F in it,
Exactly.
which the
And you could
director
see
made
it.
sure you did because to make it certain that you knew it was dubbed over. But let's move on. Enrico Colantoni, who played Mathesar,
Right.
he came up with this character by himself. I mean, the whole way of speaking this musical monotone has been described, and it was so good just in the audition for the character that the director told all the other people playing the aliens to copy him.
That that's awesome.
But he worked out very well, and
Just to
and
copy him, he's got the language down pat.
yeah, and of course Daryl Mitchell is supposed to be Will Wheaton.
Of course,
Except
he's
he's
fantastic.
grown up and having to deal with the fact that he's been famous for this since he was a kid. And a little detail here, which I only found out recently: Will Wheaton had a system by using the control panel, because they laid it out in this LCARS Acutogram. And the actors said, "How do we do this?" And they say, "Whatever you do is the right way." So Will Wheaton had it figured out which buttons did what and how to do it. And so he had it all figured out. And they put a line in for Lieutenant Lancer that he said, "I used to have this all figured out," which
Right.
was a point toward Will Wheaton.
That's the okay. For Tommy Weber. Yeah, it has Tommy Weber, and he
Yeah,
plays. I was
Lancer.
remembering his first. Yeah, right. That's right. Laredo.
Laredo, excuse me.
Yeah, Laredo. Yeah. That's exact.
Had an L in it.
So that I didn't realize that was a shout out to Will Wheaton. That
It
is
was.
awesome. They knew their material, and apparently, Daryl Mitchell was just great, just fun to work with, delightful to work with. And I just realized, it's funny sometimes to go to drift off a little bit. Like at 1 o'clock in the morning, I would put on NCIS New Orleans,
Yeah.
and he was in that. I did not realize that was him. Yeah, he's a great actor, super actor in that. The aliens were fantastic too, and of course we got it. We can't miss Sam Rockwell.
Yes. He, of course, went on to bigger things, but yeah, really was the key in all of this, because he was the normal person reactor to all of everything going on. While
Right.
all the others were kind of, locked up in their acting role, he was the guy. And we've seen that at the conventions too. They have
He's
the
the
panel,
fan.
they have the panel, and they have the people who are, the main bridge crew, and they'll have somebody that was there as a, 1 or 2 time guest star or something. And
he
try
played.
to say, what did you play? Well, I was a red shirt that got shot, and that's exactly what he was there.
And he played it with such hubris. It was absolutely perfect, and he just perfect for the part. I mean, he was fantastic, and all and Sigourney Weaver, all of these actors love science fiction too.
Yeah,
Between knowing what it is to be an actor who's been typecast, who's maybe wanted to go on to bigger things, which is how the movie started. The writer is sitting there, the writer of this film, the original writer, is
yeah,
sitting there watching an IMAX film, and it's on science. I think it's circa 1989, 1990, some film on science. And he goes, "Who's that voice? I recognize that voice." And then he realized it's Leonard Nimoy. And so he's thinking, William Shatner, he would be too much. He's thinking about the people that made this documentary. It's too much money to pay William Shatner to be but they got Leonard Nimoy, and so he starts to think, what would it be like if you're Leonard Nimoy and you're dealing with these fan conventions? And that was the germ. That's the kernel of how this film got started.
yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And,
Let's see. We've left out one person in the main cast, which is Robin Sachs, who plays Saris, and
right.
Saris is the evil alien, and his portrayal is something that they used to show Eric Bana how to play the villain in Star Trek 2009.
No,
Yes.
that's perfect. That makes sense.
And in fact, they modeled the ship a little bit after the Saris's ship,
That
which was a little bit of the Planet Killer, because it had that lava in the middle, and a Klingon bird of prey. I think they did both.
and all the spiky things, and that's
Yeah,
exactly. A couple of more too. Patrick Breen was Quillic. He
yeah,
forms the bond with Alex, Alan Rickman's character. It with Alex
right.
forms, and there's Alan Rickman, so underappreciated. Everything's Tim Allen, Captain Kirk,
Yeah,
but then you've got. It was so funny even when at one point in the movie when they get saved basically by Alan Rickman, they all they're all happy that the captain has saved them, but there's Alan Rickman right in front of the aliens, and he saved them. But this Patrick Breen, good actor, he gets it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another one, Missy Pyle, becomes the love interest of Tony Shalhoub,
Right.
and she was terrific. Just and in her part, just really brought a lot to it. So I've never seen a film. It's like the aliens have their own ensemble cast. They played it beautifully, and their own values, their own their own who they are as aliens. Basic a utopia, a society. When you think about Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek, there's such a purity with those aliens. With the way Methazar is talking about our society had fallen upon horrible times. We had lost ourselves, and we saw the historical documents. That's
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry. That's the core of Star Trek right there.
Yeah.
Something better than we are, and to live up to. And then one more shout out, Rainn Wilson.
Oh, of course. Yeah. He had a smaller part in this because he had another movie he was supposed to be in. And so he left early. And so they have him really kind of in one scene in the background of engineering, I think. And that's it.
And
But
that's it. There's a deleted scene that expands that,
yeah.
and it's a really funny deleted scene. The deleted scene. It's got Tony Shalhoub, Fred Kwan, and the aliens. It's the one. It's the one real test. They're basically it's imposter syndrome to the max,
Yeah.
and that's another level at which this movie resonates with just being human. Is we've all been there, imposter syndrome, and
Yeah.
and so they're on the ship. The aliens think that they are the best crew ever. They're brilliant, and so they take Tony Shalhoub to engineering to this scene you're talking about. And one of the aliens asks, he says, "We've got this little problem. We can't figure out. Very complicated. Using some of the best Star Trek's next gen techno speak you've ever heard. It's
Yeah.
just." And Tony Shalhoub said, he turns to the alien and says, "What? It's completely like teaching by Aristotle, or Plato, by questioning." And Tony Shalhoub says, "Well, what do you think?" Because Tony Shalhoub's clueless, and the rest of the crew is looking at him like, "What the heck are you going to say? You're the person who least can get through this technical jargon. You don't know." He says, "What do you think?" And the alien says, "Well, if we did it and looked at it in this particular way with subspace, that could be it." And Tony Shalhoub asks another question. And he says, "I think," he says something like, "I think you're onto it, but elaborate more." And the alien does, and then he solves their conundrum. And he looks to Tony Shalhoub, he looks to Fred Kwan, and says, "You're so brilliant. He's so brilliant."
Yeah.
I gotta
Socratic
throw
method.
out
Yeah.
one more deleted scene.
Okay.
Is the fact they made quarters for them all. They made crew quarters
Really?
for them all that they never used. There is one deleted scene with it's funny. I always say Alan Rickman, but his character is Alexander Dane. Then of course is Dr. Lazarus, the Spock
Mhm.
character. So of course, his protege, the guy we were talking about that loves him,
Yeah.
takes him to his quarters, and they open the door and there's nothing there. And he says, "Well, there's spare, just a perfect place for contemplation. There's nothing here. Complete lack of distraction." And then Rickman says, "Alexander, where's the bed?" And these spikes, they really should have used this to leave the scene. Pure spikes, 3 feet tall, come up from the floor. And the alien says, "It took me 3 years to learn how to sleep on these." But once you get used to it, it's wonderful. One last thing. Then the alien says, then Alan Rickman says, or Dr. Lazarus says, what about the bathroom?" And the alien says, "We have noticed from the historical documents you really never had bathrooms on the ship."
Yeah.
Which is a classic Star Trek trope.
I kind of like the mealtime where the captain gets the Iowa beef because Kirk
Oh
was
yeah.
supposedly from
Oh,
Iowa,
oh,
and
that's right.
yeah,
That's it. I was thinking Iowa resonates, and you're exactly right. Kirk beef Iowa. Yeah, oh God. What poor Alan Rickman,
Yeah.
what he has to eat.
Right.
You know,
So
and that's as much slapstick. Whereas you think of uh Spaceballs, and it's just some silly slapstick. You know, I know it's a
yeah.
great film, but that's about as much slapstick as you get is what Alan Rickman has to eat. It's different kind of humor that just works in Galaxy Quest.
One of my favorite lines in this is the Sigourney Weaver's line to the aliens. They're not all historical documents. Surely you don't think Gilligan's Island is a? And their
Oh,
reaction was, "Now, there are a lot
oh,
of people. There were people during the '60s that thought Gilligan's Island was a documentary, and that we should try and go and save them."
those people. Oh. Yeah, that's incredible. Is that a kind of a true fact that there were some people that really
Yes,
thought Gilligan?
really,
That's
yes,
that's incredible. Early TV. Wow. And yet another effect of Gilligan's Island, which is, as you would come and elucidate so well in my classes, in the history of the FCC, how
yeah.
Gilligan's Island got started in the first place.
Yeah.
What was the story again? It's
Well,
Gilligan.
it was at that time. This was Newton Minow, who was the
Yeah,
chairman of the FCC. He gave an article that was written in TV Guide that said that TV was a vast wasteland,
right.
and needed something that would be much more uplifting and educational and things like that. And this Sherwood Schwartz, who did Gilligan's Island later, found this as a challenge. Okay, you want schlock? I'll give you schlock, and then named the ship Minnow, not because of a small fish, but for Newton Minow, the head of the
For Newt
FCC, just as kind
Minow.
of a give him a black eye,
That
and
cracks
did
me. Oh,
an intentionally stupid show, and of course it became popular.
and when I'd bring you into class, and I'd crack up, I'd be laughing. But every time he told that story, it was awesome. But and so I love it, and it lives on through this movie. That film, you're watching it for the first time. You just never think that would come, and their reaction to that was just priceless. I did hit me one more deleted scene, which gets to some of the funniest lines. I mean, Alan, it's funny. All the actors talked about, who's stealing the show, and basically they all had a day or two where each one of them had stole the show. Each one of them was able to, they stole the scene. And Alan Rickman, some of his lines are just so good.
Yeah,
He just says what at one point that just cracks you up. But one line where he says the captain, Tim Allen is down there, and he's the rock monster is threatening him, and so they're talking, they're thinking, they're channeling through all these different ways that the crew are up in the ship talking to Tim Allen, who's facing this unbelievable rock monster, and they're talking about different ways to defeat him. And the guy comes up, he's watched all the episodes, says, "Look around. Maybe you'll see things you can turn into a weapon." I mean, it's straight out of the Gorn episode. It's just,
right.
and then I think he even says, "Or you could make a lathe." You're like,
I
just, that's a little bit of airplane coming. But
like
then,
that.
Alan Rickman, he says, "You never challenge, you never channel the craft of acting. You don't respect the craft," and it cuts at that point. Well, the deleted scene is Alan Rickman. He collapses. He goes backwards, and then he starts to go. Oh, and he kind of goes into this trance, and then he says, "Yes, I am a rock." Basically, he's like doing method acting.
Yeah,
I am a rock. What would bother me? Vibrations, vibrations. And so Tim Allen in this deleted scene, it's a long deleted scene. He
yeah,
throws rocks at it, and and then the creature actually he throws rocks against rocks that are on the far canyon. He looks at the creature, turns around, throws rocks, and the creature is kind of confused by it, and he walks into the far canyon wall, steps over Tim Allen, walks into the canyon wall, and explodes. but then he comes back. It was a long deleted scene, but it was
Yeah.
hilarious. That's
Sometimes it just slows the film down too much.
it would have, but it is a priceless deleted scene.
Well, they have another one where they're in the ship and Tim Allen is on the ground and they want to digitize him and bring him back on ship. And he does
Right.
kind of a McCoy line, what's going to happen when you cut me up into little bitty bits. And so they beam up the pig creature.
Oh, yeah, the
And
alien,
and
another alien. Yeah.
the lines are, he says, I heard some squealing or something. And Sigourney Weaver says, oh, no, everything's fine, but the animal's inside out. I heard that. It turned inside out and it exploded.
And
Did I
it's,
just hear that animal turned inside out and then it exploded? Hello? Hold, please.
which, when you think about it, we've talked about this before. When you think about it, they're channeling Trek perfectly. The transporter is one of the most dangerous instruments in
Yes.
Star Trek. McCoy's right, and that is an homage to Star Trek: The Motion Picture when the transporter wasn't working and it turned whatever it was didn't live
Into,
very long.
into like Jello. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you can tell it's happening. It's, God, what we're laughing at, but it's brilliant. It's just
Yeah.
one question I was going to ask you. Why we've both been to Star Trek conventions,
We have.
and love them, just love them. I mean, I miss them. It's been after COVID. It's been hard
It
to
really is. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think they got this right? With your experience at conventions, did you feel like they got the details right?
I think so. Because they didn't really paint everybody with the same brush, but we've seen that too. There are a certain number of people who kind of believe that it's real. There are a certain number of people who are there just to kind of people watch and kind of pretend to be above all of it, and then there are those of us who dress up just because it's fun, and and play along.
And play, you're right. They got the different types of people there dress up. That's exactly right. And that is one actor. I admit that with there's so many different levels of reality. The actors that we know playing actors who have a part on a fictional TV show that is beloved. It's just so many layers. Tim Allen says himself. He says layers upon layers upon layers. And the kid. Is Justin Long as Brandon was fantastic.
Yes.
Just got that fan part right. And Tim Allen is so cutting to him. He's so hurtful to him when he says it's just a damn show.
Yeah.
And basically says get a life. And then when he comes back and talks to him on this communicator, he even then he's so excited to hear the captain's voice, but then he even says, I took your advice. I realized I needed a life, but then he kind of stands up for himself too. And he just does a great job with that.
And then he says it's real, and he said, I knew it.
Yeah. There's a little part of us inside of it that goes, yes, it is. Oh, that's even his parents were. I just scanning down when Brandon is going outside with all his Roman candles with so they can guide in Laredo as he's flying in the ship at the end. The mom says, "Well, at least he's outside because he's inside all the time."
Yeah, that's it. There's a red thingy going toward the green thingy, and I think we're the green thingy. That's another line I kind of like.
Oh God, that's.
But I do have a great deal of respect for Tony Shalhoub, who generally plays the same kind of people, kind of
right.
Not quite all there. And in this, is a master stroke in how he's done this with all of this very matter of fact stuff, all this strange stuff that's happening, and his reaction is absolutely nothing to any of it. It just seems normal to him.
It did, and you'd think he's not there, and yet and you look at the plot, and how he plays into it. When you kind of step back and look at the plot, like this is just once they get into being taken from the convention, then and you meet the bad aliens, and the
Yeah.
negotiations don't go well, and then now they're going to meet their maker, the bad, but they manage to get through the minefield, which kind of just mine the first time they go through the minefield, it's just sheer luck that it's there. It's actually fortunate that it's there. They're able to escape. But then this is where it starts to click in that this feels like a Star Trek episode. Well, we're okay, but now we're missing our basically the dilithium crystals. I can't remember the term they use, but what powers the ship?
Yeah.
Say it again. Yeah.
It's some kind of orb or some such that has to be there. I forget what
Right.
they
And
called
so
it.
then now the submission is to find, okay, we don't have any of those. We don't make it. The ship can't make it anymore. There's no, and so we got to find one. That becomes the submission. And
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub is when at that moment of where really everybody else is just freaking out. He's down there in engineering, just staying on target, just like what you talking to the aliens. Well, what we got to do is go find one of these things, and he and he's just matter of fact in the moment, and that kind of lets everybody calm down. Okay, now this is like one of our episodes. This is a
To a
mission.
certain extent, Sigourney Weaver did the same thing. She said, "I'll do what I did in the show. I'll repeat what the computer says."
Right. That's exactly right. Oh, but yeah, that's it's just full of those. It is a brilliant, because then it becomes a Trek episode, and one of the best like you mentioned, one of the best Star Trek episodes ever. It fits in. Fans have it ranked as number 7 out of all 12 Star Trek films. Right?
Yeah.
I would put it as number 2 or 3. I mean, it's
it
gotta
has
have Wrath of Khan first, but
it's true. It's true. But Star Trek 6 also comes in there
oh
pretty
yeah,
high, I would say.
100%. Yeah.
However, I think that the reason this is rated so highly, and similarly why the Orville is seen
Right.
by so many as better than New Trek, is because they don't have to rely on canon. And you've heard my opinion of canon and Star Trek anyway. I think if you can make an entertaining show, it's not as important to keep all the details the same. They're not historical records. And so
Right.
by doing this, they're not bound by anything. They can do anything, they can say anything, they can be anything, and they can be entertaining. And they did that with the Orville too. They created a whole new universe that did not have to confine itself to what we knew about Star Trek. Well, they shouldn't have met those aliens yet, kind of thing. So that's kind of the that's kind of the thing, and that was my problem with Star Trek Enterprise. As a matter of fact, was that the first episode they had the Borg, and I'm thinking, now wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. And we fall and there's times, exactly right, times when these shows are breaking canon that is so fundamental that you go, this is just not right. Other times you go, hey, if you're going to entertain me, we've got to break canon a little bit. And it's okay. I'm not going to hold them to the fire, their feet to the fire so much. Whoa, but finding that middle ground can be so hard in dealing with canon. And so here you've got a show where you just complete freedom. But speaking of that, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if Strange New Worlds ran into the NCA, it ran into the Protector, ran into this ship, and Balthazar?
That'd be kind of funny.
You know what I instantly thought? I thought that'd be cool, but canon, that's
we have not mentioned Protector, and the reason it looks like it does. There are two things to know about this. One is it's shaped like a comm badge from Next Generation. If you
okay,
sit it on its tail, it's shaped like a comm badge. Also, their design, they wanted everything that was round on the Enterprise to be pointy on this, and everything that was straight on the Enterprise to be round. And so the nacelles were semicircular, and the command area is just a regular rocket-looking thing, which is why they wanted to do it. And in fact, the registration on it, NTE 3060 or whatever it was, NTE meant not the Enterprise.
but not the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Oh, and the scene where Laredo drives it out of space dock is priceless.
Yes.
Just leaning, like starts off as like, "Wow, you got this," and then they start to lean a little bit.
Yeah. This is something they did too. They had the set on a platform that could be moved about a foot either way. So they actually did have, instead of tilting the camera, they actually tilted the set, and they did that in.
What was that? I was when what,
They did that
what
again
was
somewhere. I forget.
Yes, they did. Absolutely, yeah. And instead of just shaking that it's fantastic. It really works well, especially once you kind of know that that's going on. If when you're watching it the first time, I think it has this affect, but when you know it's going on, it's really neat. I mean, they did a great job with that. They spent their money well. It's out there
Yes.
in front. It's basically not a gigantic budget at all. In
No,
fact,
it
is they were
was. Yeah, I have the budget down here somewhere, and they didn't make a lot on this. It wasn't as let's see, it cost 45 million to make, and they grossed U.S. and Canada 71 million, which is a very, they would have to have about 80 million to break even.
But the funny thing was, they thought they were just nosediving at first because the opening weekend did not work out. But it just a word of mouth saved the film. It became
Yeah,
everybody's, the first people thought,
it did.
this is not going to be good. I think I can vaguely remember that. What are they doing with Star Trek? But the word of mouth got out, and it became everybody's second favorite film that they started seeing over the holiday.
Right,
I think it was
right
the
after they went
holiday.
to see Stuart Little. Yeah,
Exactly. Which we will probably not do on a podcast. And that's
we will not. I don't have any problem with Michael J. Fox, honestly, but
no, no, no.
that movie was just a little more than I'd be willing to review.
Yeah. But this film is a gem. It's just, people are always asking, what's your favorite film? And there's a great old film I kind of go by as by default, Night of the Hunter, a great film from the 50s. But this film is in my top five, and my top five has got like 100 films in it, but or maybe more. But this film might be in the actual top five. It just works on so many. I mean, I'm sitting there the first time watching. I say the first time rewatching it here. It's been maybe 10 years since I've seen it, and even when Sam Rockwell comes up and he introduces the crew, everything about it is meant to separate Tim Allen, like being the little bit ego-filled star, versus the rest of the cast, and everything falls into place. Sam Rockwell, when the guy crewman number 9, when he introduces, it says, and now the captain, our star, Peter, and I can't remember his last name. It was Peter. Let's see.
Let me look.
I've got to. Yeah. Oh, Jason. It's not Jay. It's
Jason
Jason
Nesmith.
Nesmith. Jason. Yes, and the rest of the crew is just going, and I was thinking of doing that for our show, Professor, but you can't do it with three, Professor, B, but you can't do it with three syllables. Three syllables. So you just it's got to be like Hector, Chandler, Don. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, the best names have one or two syllables, and you were.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
We have at the end of the credits, Mathesar says, "Never give up, never surrender," and
You're right.
that's one of the catchphrases in the film, and it's also something they often said in Doctor Who. Never give up, never surrender, always be kind, never be cowardly, that kind of thing, and that's part of that. So they've pulled from all science fiction in order to do this, and
Good
so
point.
that's
Also,
the yeah.
one homage
By Grabthar's hammer, the sons of what does it say? The sons of Warvan, you shall be avenged. I don't know where that came from.
And the acting on Alan Rickman's part, when he meant it, when his mentor, when his protege had died, when his mentee had passed away, died, and then when he said it and he meant it, I mean, that
was touching. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good acting on all levels, but even when he says it and he doesn't want to mean it, but it's just this film becomes pathos at points. I mean, yeah, it was
once
it
again,
got me
right?
a couple of times.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
again, right where we started, this film was intended from the beginning to be a dramatic film with comedic overtones. And in order to make it more family friendly, it morphed into this. And I think because it came in that direction is what makes all this work. They say that comedy has to be taken seriously, that you have to own your character and then let the jokes come. And they did that here. And
They
so I
absolutely
think
did.
that's worthy of our attention today.
Of our and your the Never Retreat this shirt has got that. There was
Oh, very good.
there was a while at our august institution where I would wear a lot of movie shirts. I mean, I'd have fun doing that, and you know, most of the time, 99% of the time, you wear the shirt, nobody recognizes where it comes
Yeah,
from. You know, I've got the Nostromo shirt. I've
yeah.
got yeah, and
I was hoping to get away from this. It says basically visit sunny Honduras, but
yeah, that well, one of my favorite student and friends of all time, guy Hector. He says he
yeah.
looks at me. It comes and it's in a large classroom, and he says, "Galaxy Quest." And I have, and I was like, "Yes, you got it." I have never forgotten that. It just,
You know, that is one of the wonderful things about what we have done for many years is that as professors we can come in dressed up in convention wear and get away with it.
and
Where
have a ball.
if we were working at IBM, we'd be fired.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, that yeah, it is so much fun to be able to do that. I
And it's so
had
much fun to be. Oh, you have something else, okay?
I had one little quote, and I've got to have to. This is from an article on basically the idea of parody and pastiche, and what the kind of the idea of what the show was doing, and let's see, I've got to find my get to my flashlight real quick. Here we go. Come on, there we go. Aha, it's almost there. Let's see. Well, if I didn't have it, huh? There it is. Okay, so I can read it. It's kind of the article kind of. So anyway, one thing this article pointed out, and it's coming. It's an article. Whoops, that light is bad.
Yeah,
It's an
welcome to
article
Star
coming
Trek.
at. Yeah, yeah, woo, yeah. Got my tricorder on. So it's an article coming at the idea of how the film art replicates life replicates art. The film is doing this parody of fans and conventions, and it mentions that it kind of has the idea that some sometimes like our parents sometimes when you're a huge fan they almost view you as an extraterrestrial, like, oh, he's into this Star Trek thing,
Well,
it's just
yeah,
so yeah. And in that sense we share, we become aliens ourselves. We share that with Malthazar's race in a sense,
that's
because
true.
we believe we believe it's all real, or at least you want to. You have that
There's a
part of
case
you.
to be made that everybody's children are kind of aliens. I mean, uh, I know that I was when I was that age. My mother used to say, you know, why are you just recording your own voice into that tape recorder? And then you know. I have
Right.
the same kind of thing about my kids. It just, I don't think I said anything to them, but I often wondered just, where they were coming from. But
Where they're coming
thankfully,
from, they're aliens in a way. That's a
yeah,
good point. And the last thing it says, I had the little quote that says, so it talks about the film as parody. This is the other side of the coin. What the film really gets, in a sense, the value of fandom. And it points out, it starts with Brandon. It says, the captain risks the fate of the universe as we know it on a fan's theory, by the kids' theory, by activating the Omega 13. And his trust is soundly justified. The mysterious device does exactly what Brandon. Because remember that they weren't even sure what the Omega. The fans weren't even sure. Weren't even sure what the
right.
Omega 13 would do. And so the film, as you get a happy ending, the film as parody is thus able to explain what Naismith could not. Why science fiction has social worth and significance. Fiction and fans are shown to possess valuable and tangible knowledge about the real world. Fictional plans and specialized information can be adapted and reworked to function in real life situations and solve real problems. And the parody in Galaxy Quest concludes that science fiction is not about just being alien, but it's also about the way we live, and that's so much about
Yeah,
that
it really
film.
is. It really is.
That's why it resonates on so many really good levels. Just
I agree with that, and I think that's a good place for us to step off this time. I thank
yes,
you for being with me as always. We'll be back next week, I presume, other things permitting. And
absolutely right.
yeah, so and thank you for joining us. We appreciate your being here, and if you will subscribe if you've not done so, and click a like. Even so, we would highly appreciate that. And we'll be back next week with who knows what else. We'll figure it out. Until then, don't go far.